Jaylen Brown appreciates the criticism. He has kept track of all slides and jobs, using them as a motivation to elevate his game. According to Jaylen Brown, all the things that I thought were setting me back or adversity ended up being the biggest blessings. Getting moved to the bench, even trade talks, getting booed, whatever the fans were saying, overpaid, overrated, all of that stuff made me who I am today. It drove my work ethic and it drove my demeanor. But now, Brown is excelling on the biggest stage. He was named Eastern Conference Finals MVP and has led the Boston Celtics to their second NBA Finals appearance in 3 years. But for JB, the moments that resonate most are the painful ones. He even says they changed him. JB is stoic with a noticeable seriousness about him. He describes himself as machine-like. He acknowledges he wasn't always like this. However, as the criticism intensified, he had to adapt to cope. He developed a sort of alter ego, a method of toughening himself against the world. According to him, I've been developing it for so long, I completely forget where it comes from, but it comes from the outside world and me navigating it. I felt like I had to build it to protect myself. I've been in it for so long, I can't even remember what it is not to be like this. It makes you a little robotic, but I needed to do that to survive. Brown's so-called villain origin story started on draft night in 2016, a moment he had dreamed about since childhood. When Commissioner Adam Silver announced that Boston had chosen him as the number 3 overall pick, cameras captured Celtics fans putting their hands on their heads in disappointment. The next day, the Washington Post ran a story with the headline, "Celtics pick one potential bust after another in the 2016 NBA draft." A moment that was expected to be joyful turned out to be profoundly embarrassing. As per Brown, it just makes you zero in yourself. You've kinda got to black out everything. It just teaches you in that moment. You can't get too high or too low. I learned that right away from that instance, and then going from there, I don't expect anything, any praise or whatever. But over the years, the criticism hasn't quieted for Jaylen Brown. He's mocked for not being able to drive left. He's called the second best player on the Celtics behind Jason Tatum. He's been involved in countless trade rumors and wasn't temporarily moved to a bench role during the 2018-19 season. This year, he didn't make any All-NBA teams despite the Celtics finishing number 1 in the league in offense and number 2 in defense. And after he penned the richest contract in NBA history last July, a supermax worth up to $304 million over 5 years, detractors ripped him for not being worth that kind of money. Brown said, "I always have a chip on my shoulder because I feel like how I think of myself. Others don't think of me. It makes you want to go work and go out and prove everything." That mindset has aided Brown in evolving his game. He has dedicated himself to becoming a versatile scorer, proficient in shooting threes, driving to the basket, and hitting mid-range jumpers. He has also developed into a tenacious defender, frequently tasked with guarding the top opposing team's top scorer. Additionally, he refined his ball handling abilities following criticism for committing 8 turnovers in Game 7 of last year's Eastern Conference Finals against Miami. This season, Brown shined in the Eastern Conference Finals. He made a 3-pointer at the buzzer to force overtime in Game 1 against Indiana. Then in Game 2 of that series, he scored 40 points on a night when Tatum was struggling with his shots. JB excelled in Game 1 of the Finals, ending with a team-leading 22 points, 6 rebounds, 3 steals, and 3 blocks in the Celtics' 107-89 victory over the Dallas Mavericks. When questioned about Brown's influence, Mavericks coach Jason Kidd expressed his thoughts openly. Jason Kidd said Jaylen is their best player. Just looking at what he does defensively, he picked up Luka Doncic full court, he got to the free throw line, he did everything, and that's what your best player does. However, even that remark was met with doubt and largely seen as Kidd's attempt to create tension in the Celtics locker room between Tatum and Brown rather than sincere admiration. Nonetheless, Drew Holiday echoed Kidd's sentiment, stating, "I believe him. I think JB has been assertive in every aspect." Brown knows that with his salary, expectations of him are through the roof. He and Tatum have failed to lead the Celtics to a championship despite making 6 conference finals appearances. He understands he has to do better. This postseason, he's averaging career high in points 24.8 and field goal percentage 54.3 while also staring on the defensive end. He hopes things will finally be different. On Media Day, when asked about the criticism he has received throughout his career, he responded by referencing a proverb, "The child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth." That's how JB is trying to approach every game with unbridled fire, and for Brown, it was the criticism that lit the spark. JB said it allowed me to not care or not be affected by what anybody has to say because my first introduction was I got booed.